Hello, everybody, and welcome here to the channel. Hopefully, you have a good one, whatever you're out there. My name is Eddie, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about how to maintain your car. Okay, there is a lot of this subject, and I can talk about this for hours, and we're going to try to reduce it to a very short, like 5, 8 minute video. I might go over, I apologize from the beginning, but uh, this is kind of a general idea of how to maintain it and kind of give you an idea how to maybe makes you a safer driver, a better driver, understanding what's my car doing, so this obviously I'm talking about an internal combustion engine, electric cars. I'll make a different video about it, but there's some similarity to them. First and foremost, I'm using this pictures. This is an article from Car and Driver. It's a bit an older article written by Gary Witzenberg. Again, I have a link to everything I show you in the description below. So I'm just using the picture just so we can talk about it. Obviously, this picture right here shows a individual checking the oil level on their car. Oil is obviously, if you don't know what it is, oil is the lubricant that's inside of the internal combustion engine that provides, there's a level of viscosity this provides so the metal components don't rub off each other. Long story short, you don't have oil. What you have there is just a solid metal block, it's just going to seize. It's not going to rotate. Okay. And oil does burn off because you have there's many reasons why oil burns off. But long story short, if you don't have oil in your engine, you're kaput. You're not going anywhere. And not having oil in your engine, for me, when I see low oil level, it's concerning. Like, when I see my friend's car or someone goes, "Hey, my car," and I hear like your oil level is low. I'm like, where did oil go? That's probably more of a concern for me than like, because you're not supposed to have no oil in your car. Okay, so obviously that opens a Pandora box right there. Piston rings, God knows what, head gasket, etc., etc. So I'm not going off on that too much. I'm just saying check your oil and periodically do oil changes. I rather change oil more often than wait for the oil to get really, really, really low. Because cars do burn oil. It's just in nature, internal combustion engine, when they're brand new, an engine, it might not burn as much, but as it gets older and ages, the tolerances get more and more loose, and some oil finds its way into the combustion chamber and gets burned off. So it happens. Some cars even drip oil. So I hate that. I don't like cars that drip oil. My garage has to be pristine. So anyway, but that's a different story. So keep an eye on that. Usually the oil check tab is there in your engine bay. You could access it. Take it out, wipe it, put it back in. Especially before you start the car, you could just check the oil level, give you an idea. You don't have to do it every day. Absolutely not. Do it every day if you are burning oil, but eventually after a while you start to have a pattern. If you check it once a week and you start realizing, next week after week, once every 2 weeks, you got to see a pattern of oil as it gets less or gets darker, darker, darker. That kind of gives you an idea. Just because oil is dark, it doesn't mean like it's bad. It just, characteristic of oil is meant to also, it, I don't want to get too deep in it, but the point is, in the internal combustion engine, there's a lot of carbon and oil absorbs it and whatnot. So the oil does get dark. But yeah, very, very dark oil is probably very old. So fresh oil is not going to be as dark. But anyways, moving on. So what's next? We talked about the oil level, and the article was on saying your windshield washer fluid. To me, that's not really a priority. Yeah, go ahead, check. I mean, I always clean my windshield before I go anywhere, but whatever. Something that I'm going to use this picture for is the battery. You see a lot about people telling you, "Oh, my battery's dead, and I need a jump start." Well, just make sure that you jump start your car according to the manual, because every car is different. You'd be very surprised how many people just take the leads, the jumper cable, and just put it in an appropriate location, negative and the plus, negative to the negative, plus to the plus, and they start the car, and then something bad happens. So not all cars are designed to be jump battery to battery. So make sure to check the manual on your specific car to know how to jumpstart your car. Okay, and especially if you're giving someone else a jump, make sure you're doing it properly so you don't damage your vehicle. So that's specific to your car. If you have even older cars, so just make sure you're aware of that. They talk about tire air pressure. Absolutely. I check my tire pressure probably once a week, and I just have like a little handy gauge. Doesn't have to be something expensive. It just has to be consistent. So just consistently check your tire pressure, and that saves you a lot of money. So just get a gauge, plug it in there, and just check your tire pressure. Just make sure your tire pressure is in the optimal condition it's supposed to be in. If it's low, go ahead and fill it up. I do not want to check my tire pressure when the car is moving because the hot air expands. Just make sure you check it in an appropriate, um, have a baseline. If you're gonna check it when it's hot, then you check it when it's cold. They're two different numbers, right? So if cold, cold, before you start your day, check it and continue doing a pattern like that. I don't know, every whatever day of the week you have time, just make that week once a week and just check your tire pressure. You shouldn't move as much. Next thing they show you is like the coolant. Coolant shouldn't much evaporate, to be honest with you. It's not something like the oil. Your coolant could be there for years. And I've seen cars, I've bought old cars that had original OEM manufactured coolant from like 10 years ago. It doesn't really go much. The coolant shouldn't go anywhere. Everything's sealed. This is the expansion tank, and the radiator has a huge tight. That thing is tight. It's no steam should be going anywhere. So yeah, go ahead and check your coolant. But to me, that's more like again, if you have an older car, the plastic component of your radiator will give way. I've changed the radiator on a, what was it, 2005 Camry that I own, and I remember I changed it because I looked at the radiator. I was like, ugh, this thing's about to give out. I just got a new one. We could tell like it was just kind of getting the plastic getting really flimsy, and I wasn't waiting for that thing to crack. I just got rid of it, and it was already old. I mean, it was like what, 15 years old. So nah, I'm okay. Nothing lasts forever. So that's another thing about used cars. Just preventative maintenance. The hoses, for example, let's say that's a radiator hose right here. Um, to me, after like 15, 17, 18 years, I get rid of it, man. It already did a great job. Would it last another 20 years? Maybe. I just no, especially when the coolant is already like 15 years old. I just drained everything, removed all the hoses. They're not expensive. They help to get a bike clamp. Same thing with the heater cord lines in the back. I also did the same thing. So that's something for you to know about. I would not mess around with fuses. For example, fuses, electrical things, they work unless they relays might stop working, but usually everything works. I had issues with relays, and by the way, this is the fuse box right here. It's a generic fuse box, whatever. Um, yeah, they usually work. I never changed relays for no reason. Okay, I did change hoses when they weren't leaking, but because they were very very old. Because I don't want to wait until they go out, especially when I already did the radiator. I said might as well do all that stuff. Um, Now as far as the battery, again, if you have a car that's already like 15, 17, 18 years old, I would just change the alternator. Probably an alternator maybe right here, and I will change the starter because I'm not waiting for that. I'm not waiting for them to fail. Already 15, 17 years, 100 and I don't know, something thousand mile. I don't know. I just feel like I just replace them. That way I know those things are all in sync. Alternator, battery, and especially a belt that runs all that brand new spiff new, you're good to go. Now the only thing that might not, the reason your engine, you have any mechanical issues will be something electrical. And that I don't mess with. I don't replace it unless electrical actually fails. What you're seeing right here, that's the brake master cylinder. Of course, changing the oil on it is something you should do because eventually it just absorbs a lot of water and dirt. Um, that's easy. Draining it and putting a new one in. But beside that, I don't see any issues. The article goes on saying brake fluid check. I just mentioned that. See, um, that's wrong. The picture is wrong. It's showing you it says brake fluid check, and it's showing you again the same thing it did with the radiator. Brake fluid is not here. That's the brake. They messed up. The art should be pointing to this. Um, Mind you, your car does have a warning lamp or a warning. It will show a warning signal when your brake reservoir gets low. It usually shows like brake, and that's basically this thing is low. Um, why is it leaking? Again, every time I see low, I'm like, why is it leaking? Brake fluid doesn't disappear. It just basically gets dirtier and dirtier and dirtier and dirtier. And it loses its capacity to withstand heat, when you put pressure on it. It's hydraulic fluid, so it doesn't perform as well. But if it's leaking, you could see. Here's a fun fact: you could see the level of the master brake cylinder level drop as the brake pad wear out because it increases the foot travel. Every time you press on the brake pedal, you get more travel. So that's kind of a nice way to know how much brake pads you have. If you did the brake fluid, you fill it up to the top when your brake pads are brand new. You can see that it's good dropping. That means your brake pad is wearing out. That's how I know. When my brake pads are kind of like, ooh, I'm kind of low on my brake pad for my daily driver. Okay. Tires. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Don't drive when tires are worn out. It's your life. If the tires are worn out, if you live in a dry climate, uh, you get away with it, but then little rainstorm and hydroplane, here we go. You're just gonna slide everywhere. So just make sure you have up to date tires. This your life depends on it. I see a lot of people with mismatched tires. I disagree with that so much. I don't mind having a used battery in my car, but I really mind having a used tire. It's just no. Temporarily okay, a temporary fix, but not not my standard routine. Heck no. Beside that, your transmission oil. A lot of transmissions, you change the oil on them like what 100,000 some miles. Sometimes you don't even need to. So, transmission is kind of finicky. Um, if it works, don't mess with it. That's usually my motto. But as far as like hoses and stuff, they're old, man. You just get rid of them. You can tell like when the clamps is next to the hose, you can see kind of the hose kind of expanding. It shouldn't be. It should be just flush, but it kind of looks like it's ballooning. It kind of looks about to have a hernia. Well, yeah, maybe that's what might just happen. Although they have a lot of reinforcement in the hoses, but it happens after age and heat cycles and wear and tear. So in conclusion, how long I've been talking for a minute. I'm gonna how long I'm talking to. Oh my goodness, 12 minutes. I kind of give you a lot of information. I know it's out there, but hopefully all this information is something you already know and it something you're aware of. If you learned something, I'm glad you learned something. I mean, I know I just showed you a basic picture of an engine. Again, electric cars are different. Electric cars still have coolant in them, but 15, 20 years. I mean, unless you have a Nissan Leaf, you should be okay. Most of them are still new. As far as the maintenance, just take it to your take it to your dealer. But again, as far as car, this is not really a guide. It's just kind of just a general knowledge of what's inside of your engine. Of course, the bigger the engine, everything gets more heavier, and you just gets more volume of fluids and liquids. But it's still the same general concept. So, anyways, as always, be safe out there. And I'll make more videos when I talk more in details about the alternator and the starter. I just want to see how this video goes, and let's see if anybody learned anything. As always, let me know what you think in the comments below. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.